Vocally and musically, I'd say Joni Mitchell has had a huge influence on my music development over the years. I've been singing my entire life, and picked up the guitar midway through high school, so 2013. But didn't really get serious about it until last year, like the past year and a half. I really became quite a recluse and just play guitar all the time in my room. But so I think during that period when I was really actually caring about guitar, I listened to a lot of Joni Mitchell and Nick Drake that are both great influences on me. Emotionally too, but musically for sure. My process as a songwriter, it varies, I think, from how I'm feeling and what I want to write about. I rarely just sit down with that intention of this is what I want to write about. It really takes a lot of just dicking around, of fooling with tunings and just seeing what feels good. And then from there, I usually write the music first. And then however that makes me feel, I relay with my emotional side of things. So that song I wrote last November, last autumn, living in New York. And I think during that time, I was living in a tiny little Manhattan apartment, and New York's pretty overwhelming. So I think in that time, I was very reclusive and figuring myself out in solitude. And so during the writing of Lady as an entire album, that's really a lot of what I was exploring, was the own inner workings of my mind and how, and just being comfortable with that solitude and that peace that I feel like I have never allowed myself. So Lady in Lace specifically is about just femininity and finding that peace in your own mind almost. Second song was Child of Fire, and that is off of Mountain Child that I wrote this past summer. In June, I got in my car and drove to California alone and camped along the way and just did a massive road trip. So that is really where I wrote all of Mountain Child. Well, that is just where I wrote Mountain Child as the album. And so Child of Fire I wrote in California. That song really came out of nowhere. I was sitting in Laurel Canyon, which is in LA, and just turned all of my strings to C, just tuned them all to C, and I'm fooling around with that, and then switched my tuning all around, and then all of a sudden it just the way that tuning, which I never played in before, writing those chords kind of just made me feel this certain type of, I don't know, just inspired in general. But so then I kind of used California and where I was as this metaphor of talking about my childhood in a way. And I'm not from California, but using my current state of being in terms of where I used to be, in childhood and growing up. So Child of Fire really is talking about, quite literally, my upbringing, which was fairly chaotic, and then finding this this growth through it all. Old Photographs was the third song, and that is the first song I ever wrote. I wrote in 2015 after my dad passed away. So I was 18 at the time. I wrote that in Georgia. I was at art school there. And I tell the story pretty much of how it feels to grieve. Just thinking of are you doing the right thing, and everything that happens when a piece of your life is gone. Yeah, just telling that story of how it feels to lose somebody, and and keep going. All right. Thank you guys for having me.